This is the Montana Knife Company SERE25, and this thing is a little bit of a beastly survival knife that I've had the pleasure of using for a while. Let me just give you my bottom line up front. If you're looking for a knife that has been built for survival, they built this with getting advice from SERE trainers, SERE standing for survival, evasion, resistance, and escape techniques. If you're looking for a knife that can be used to do dumb stuff like poking and prodding and hammering and all that type of mallet type of work, a heavy duty blade steel with Magna Cut and a great lifetime warranty, Montana Knife Company will reshape this knife for you. They will repair this knife for you. They will sharpen this knife for you. They will do everything with this knife for a lifetime warranty. And you're okay with the price, then go for it. This is the knife for you. I mean, this thing has a blade that's almost 5 inches long. It gets the job done. It's not an EDC knife. This is a type of knife you use for camping, used for tasks for survival. You use this to take in the bush with you. You use this for hiking or whatever. It's one of those type of big boys. But if you want to know things I do and don't like about it with my brief time with it, then stick around. So the SERE25, as mentioned before, this is a Montana Knife Company design. Josh Smith, heavily inspired by SERE training and the instructors that do SERE training. A lot of that stuff takes place in the Northeast, Maine, cold weather environments where they take troops or people who are going through there for different reasons from different three-letter agencies. It's not always active duty members. They go through SERE training where sometimes they're put in an environment and all they're given is a rabbit and they got to survive so many days, or they're put in different environments and they have to figure out how do you start wood and how do you evade and how do you continue to move towards a mission even if you're being chased by an enemy. This is the type of knife that was inspired to be created by Montana Knife Company. It has G10 scales, which has a little bit of cutouts in them, which is really good when you're wearing gloves, and it's just super good for grip overall. It's very robust, very thick, but it's still nimble enough for those delicate tasks like creating firewood, that type of stuff as well, such as scraping, carving, or whatever. It does have a drop point style Magna Cut blade steel. It is Cerakoted for the finish. The blade length, I put all the specs on the screen so you can see what those are. The unboxing experience is really, really good. I think that they did a great job with this, and it's 450 bucks. Let's also talk about that. $450 is a banger of a price, but comparing this to other knives that I've typically used, it is more expensive than some of those other knives, but the warranty process I just explained is unrivaled by those other companies. The fact that not only will they resharpen it, which tons of companies offer resharpening, let's just keep it real, but what other company will reshape the knife if you're a complete idiot and you mess up the shape of the knife, will repair the knife if you're a complete idiot and you do something to damage the knife. And even if this was wrapped in paracord, they will rewrap it in paracord for you if you have no clue what the F you're doing. That is included in the warranty as well. That's some good stuff. So it's a lot different when you're thinking about one knife that you can buy and it can be put in many survival situations, which makes a lot of sense. So I took this knife and I really wanted to use it for the different type of situations other than what you see people doing a lot, which is pounding it like a mallet and splitting it through wood. That's not really what you use these type of knives for. It's the tip. This tip is stupid strong. I don't know what they did with the geometry of this tip, but I was able to take this knife and to hit it over and over and over again and split wood with it. Wood that's up to 4 inches thick. Use it for prying and carving, which you typically wouldn't do with some survival knives because they want you to use the straight edge for some of those tasks. This knife really does promote you being stupid with it. It promotes you putting it into wood, trying to carve stuff out. It extremely impressed me when it came to those type of tasks. Now, one thing I like about it also is it does feel really good, especially when you are wearing gloves. They offer you a lanyard hole because some people do want to lash these things down, because one thing about Montana Knife Company, they've always had these God tier sheaths, very well done sheaths where I'm talking about, let's just do with light shakage, medium shakage, crazy shakage, No wiggle room whatsoever when it comes to their sheaths. You have this retention screw, which means you can really get down on this bad boy, which, because I can still pop it out right now, but if I wanted to, I can tighten this retention screw down more. Let's say I rarely touch this knife, it's going to be lashed down to a piece of kit. Then you can tighten this down more and even force it to the point where you damn near can't pull this thing out whatsoever. So I can come here, tighten this thing more and more, and now it's to the point where I can barely get it out. Let's just loosen that back up a little bit. But you can tighten this up. So if you're not going to use it as often, then you can do that as well. So it does have a pass through. They're really good pass through. You can buy other accessories from them if you want to use this. You can remove this if you're going to lash this to your kit. But I think that this belt pass through makes a lot of sense because you're probably going to wear this on your weak side and draw this towards you. We're going to talk about some cons I don't like about it so far as well. We'll compare it to some other knives that I have particularly used and for rucking and for camping type of situations, and I can see being used as a survival knife. So you may ask yourself, well, why would I get this when something like the Task Force 24 exists from Montana Knife Company as well? And I would say that these are similar knives, but they're not exactly the same. First off, it's a bigger knife, which, so if you are going to be using this knife for mallets, hitting, whatever, splitting wood, it's going to be easier to do with the longer knife, with the longer cutting edge. That just makes a lot of sense. Plus, I'm not sure about the edge of the Task Force when it comes to some of the stupid stuff I was doing with this knife, hitting it with other logs, using it to split wood. I don't know if it's particularly designed for that. I like a knife that's a little bit longer for survival situations versus something that's like at 4 inches or below 4 inches is not normally my jam when it comes to those situations. So that's where this kind of lies and makes a lot of sense. Now, some cons about it. This is a drop point style blade. I do kind of wish we could have got a clip point. Only I say that is because that might afford us a way to get an ambidextrous sheath. It's ambidextrous as in you can move the belt slip around, but there are some sheaths on the market, especially if the blade shape is different, where no matter what task you're doing, I will be able to take this knife out and put it in the other way. I can't do that based the way this sheath is made, and a lot of that has to do with the blade shape. What I mean by that is I do have the Gerber double infantry knife version 2, which has more of a clip point style, clip like a drop clip point style. But this sheath, I can take it, I can put it in this direction, I can take it out, I can turn it over, and I can put it in just as well both directions when it comes to this sheath. So that's something that I kind of wish that we had on there. I'm glad they didn't put serrations on it, but I do wish they offered a partially serrated version on their website, because for the tasks of cutting things that are more fibrous, such as rope, stuff like that, it is kind of easier to do with a little bit of serration. So burlaps, ropes, that's going to be easier to do with serrations, but I'm okay with the fact that it does not exist. Another thing, the Cerakoting coating on this does not afford you to strike a ferro rod. I tried several times. You can see on the back where I've already started to kind of chip away at mine, but I'm kind of used to the traditional way to be able to strike, rub down the spine of a ferro rod to do this. Now, the way they've designed this knife is that they want you to be able to use this very, very bottom of the blade itself to throw some sparks, which I would prefer not to have to do. Prefer not to have to use the blade itself to throw some sparks. But we just talked about that warranty. They will reshape this knife, resharpen it when you do stupid stuff with it. But I would kind of wish that that didn't exist. Next is I like the G10 scales, but I kind of wish that we got some type of version of scales that completely wrapped around the full tang part of this knife. This type of knife being this big and so focused towards survival, I wish that it had no way whatsoever to conduct electricity. Imagine you're using this to cut through wiring. You're not sure if some of those wires are hot. Well, I mean, metal's here, that goes all the way through here. You're holding that. I don't really want to, between you touching the bolts that are holding the scales on and this itself, if you're cutting through wires or whatever, it can technically conduct electricity. And that's something that I don't necessarily want to be in interference. And then the price is up there. Okay. Now, I don't have a direct comparison for a blade that has these type of specs, Magna Cut, 4.5 inches plus, made in America, different scale options, this phenomenal lifetime warranty. So on its own merits, the price actually sounds fair and reasonable. In a vacuum, it sounds expensive. The reason I say it sounds fair and reasonable because similarly situated knives by Montana Knife Company, by Benchmade Knives, by Bradford, by Tour, by TKL, for all those knives that are below 3 inches and they're like EDC knives, they're all around the same price. You know, you're getting those between 250 and 350 bucks. This is 4.5, so this is longer than those knives, and it has more features in the tip, the geometries. This is designed to be used differently than a traditional EDC knife. If I were to show you some blades that are more traditional for EDC, then these blades make sense with their price points because of their functionality. So every blade that I just laid out here on the table is going to cost you, for the most part, sub $300. These are more EDC blades. You can use them for survival. For instance, little hunt blade that comes in from Benchmade, because of the way it's shaped, you can throw sparks with the rear of this spine, whereas you can't do that with some other EDC knives and that type of stuff. But these aren't designed to take this, stab it into a piece of wood, drive it down, and go through 4 inches of wood to create firewood. You're not doing that with any of these EDC knives that you're going to be getting from here. So that makes a difference, right? So even something else that comes from Montana Knife Company, specifically the Battle Goat, this doesn't have the geometry to do what I just talked about. So you may look at yourself and look at the Woo. This is the Rock 62. This is an expensive knife, and it does not perform as well as the Montana Knife Company, the SERE25. So this knife is $200. So you're thinking I'm saving myself over 200 bucks, but this does not perform as well as the Magna Cut knife that comes from Montana Knife Company. Even if you're saving the money, the scale, even though this is a mil spec type of knife, the scales get loose when you use mallet, if you do malleting and hitting it and all that type of stuff. This end right here does easily mar itself whenever it's being hit by a hammer or other logs. And I'm just not I'm not a fan of how well this tip performed when using it for wood going through wood structures or whatnot. The grip is just not that great. So it's just like when you're comparing it with knives that I have similarly used for survival, the one that I most closely can perform with this is my Gerber Infantry number 2. Now, the thing about this knife, this is made in America, made in Portland. I think it's 1095 C blade steel. Don't quote me on that exactly. But this thing is normally, you can get this between 150 and 180 bucks. This is over 11 years old. There's a lot of accessories for it. It weighs more than Montana Knife Company knife. It does have the grip itself is thicker. It actually doesn't feel as easy to hold, even though you would think it is because it's much thicker than the SERE25. It is a lot different. And itself is, although it does have the partial serrations, those serrations can be difficult to sharpen, and they can get in the way when you're trying to do malleting or if you're trying to hammer this thing through a large piece of wood. So I wish they offered this with a version that didn't have serrations, because I think this would perform a lot differently. This is designed for someone that's a part of a helicopter crew to escape out of a fuselage. So use this to beat through and to cut through wires and all that type of stuff. The sheath itself is a lot different because not only does it have that ambidextrous sheath that I talked about earlier, but it also includes a holder which makes it MOLLE capable, and they give you straps so that you can strap this entire thing around your leg and it's ready to be worn on your hip, or it can be worn like near your ankle as well. So this is a very well thought out knife, but when it comes to performance, like performance for that tip, and when it comes to the knife itself, I like the way the Montana Knife Company knife performed more for those common tasks. And I also like the warranty process. So Gerber does have a lifetime warranty, but it is a hassle if you needed this knife to be reshaped, if you need this knife to be resharpened. It is more of a hassle to get that done. If you were to do any damage to the scales themselves, you have to pay for that. If I do any other type of damage to this thing, you have to pay for that. And those are things that you need to think about before you make that type of purchase. So which would I consider saying? I would just say that if you're just looking for something, you're not going to touch it more than once a year. then you want to look at something other than the Montana Knife Company knife. I think that this is the type of knife that you're using multiple times a year. Hunting season, you're taking it with you. Maybe you need to process, get through a fence. Maybe you need to start the process of carving up a kill, whatever. You're using this for camping. You're using this for survival situations. You use this when you go rucking. You use this thing multiple times a year. If you're an instructor, SERE instructor, if you're an instructor for military or something like firing instructions or AR-15s or whatever. This is something that could be on your hip as well for any type of situations. If you're gonna just want something that's, even if you don't use it but once a year, if you just want like the most reliable, priable thing that you can do the stupidest thing with, this will probably be the knife that I would get. But if you intend to just strap it and forget it, then you might want to look elsewhere and save yourself some money, because I really think you need to put this knife to use. I think you should get this and really put it through its paces, because I'm telling you, Montana Knife Company has a banger with this. With the limited amount of time that I've had it, I've quite enjoyed it a bit. It releases later on today. And if you want it, you should probably snatch it up, because this thing is going to sell like hotcakes. From what I normally carry for my survival knife has been the SE number 4. And I've been very, very tempted to get the SE number 6 because I wanted the blade length. I really enjoy the number 4. I really enjoy the functionality of it, but there are times when I'm doing certain tasks, even when I'm just splitting logs, if we go camping or whatever, I don't necessarily like to do it with the SE number 4. I wish I had a blade that was longer. I don't take the Gerber infantry blade with me because it's serrated, and that serrations get on my nerves sometimes. So I was highly interested in still finding something that, the SE can throw sparks with its spine, unlike the Montana Knife Company. But this thing here is a different process when it comes to warranty. I had to get a warranty with one of the survival bags, and I had to go through some hoops for that warranty process, to the point where I finally had the name drop. I had a YouTube channel, then shit started moving. But up until that point, it was just like, well, is it your fault or is it my fault? Or how do we know that the bag didn't rip? It was a headache, okay? And that experience I had with Rando Adventure Company, Rando Adventure and Training, made me really draw pause when it came to buying the SE number 6. And then this drop. So if you're looking for something that's longer, and I think it's going to have a very, very good use case for you, this is being replaced by the Montana Knife Company easily. I'm not even really sure what I'm going to do with this. Maybe I'll find a way to put this in my truck or something like that. But the SERE25 is going to be my go-to for any reason. I don't even care if I'm splitting logs in the backyard to create a backyard fire for the barbecue. This thing can get all that type of stuff done. I think this knife is going to work perfect a part of a kit. So if you have a Laplander saw or something like that that could saw through 2 inches, 4 inches type of wood, and then you also have a big beefy knife in your pocket, such as like the Gerber Fast Tanto Auto, a big beefy knife you can keep in your pocket for stuff that might be a little bit too big for this knife. You can also keep like the full size Adamas in your pocket with CPM crew wear in there by Benchmade. I think that would be something that could be viable to keep in your pocket as well, to kind of go along with this. And then, of course, you can always go with something from Cold Steel. Something that I find enjoyable would be like the Bush Ranger, which I haven't had a chance to really put this in the pocket as much as I would like to. But this is rocking CPM S35VN. It's made in Taiwan, and it's using their tryout lock. So I think this thing is a beast. So if you can pair this with a big beefy folder, I think that this would work. So you pair it with kind of like part of a 3-way, where it's you can put a hatchet in there, but I think this can do hatchet work if you have a little bit more time on your hands, right? And you feel like Mallow went through a piece of wood, but you can put a Laplander saw, a hatchet, and then a big beefy folding knife in your pocket. And I think you've created the perfect survival kit that's always near you. But what do you think? Are you going to pick up the Montana Knife Company SERE25? S for smash, P for pass in the comments down below. If this is your first time stopping by, hit the subscribe button. I would love to have you part of the battalion. If this is not your first time stopping by, well, thank you once again for watching me run my grape. Everyone else, we'll speak soon.